How influential is it for you to be on a team that is owned by a Black woman?
Yes, it means everything. Like, this is exactly where I want to be. I want to be on a team that looks like me, and hopefully one day, like, there can be a team that's just all Black girls, no hate against the other girls.
Now, based on just how your journey you were able to come up through softball and just a lot of the giving back you do now to the younger group, why is that so important to you to give back, and how does that, help you even in your current play now?
I want to grow this game by the numbers, and I believe girls that look like me deserve a shot. We don't have to play the outfield, or we don't have to just run the bases. We can play any position we put our mind to.
How much do you feel as if being homesick and being away from your grandmother and your family during that rough time in Michigan affected your game? And how did you feel as if it improved it when you came back? Because the numbers do speak for itself.
I think both goes hand in hand. Being away from my family, I'm a big mommy's girl. Like, I call my mom 3-4 times a day, and I talk to my family 3-4-5 times a day sometimes. So
explain to me how important the mentorship is as far as passing that down to the next generation because of something like this.
I didn't have it a lot growing up, to be more precise, and so I want to create or help mold the next generation, so the generation after them can see those girls and be like, hey, like, there's more of us. I can do this.
Welcome to another edition of Athletes Wisdom Podcast. I'm your host, Alexander Turner. And I have another amazing guest with me, Jayla, aka Slayla. How you doing today?
Good. How are you? Thank you for having me.
Hey, thank you for being here, and I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. So, for those who don't know you, right? Like, I could toot your horn. Like, honestly, the accommodation list is too long. I'd probably spend a whole podcast going over that. For those who don't know you, just go ahead and tell them who you are real quick. Some of your amazing accomplishments, just literally within the past few months alone.
Well, my name is Jayla Wright, of course, but on the field, I definitely go by Slayla. I'm a Duke grad, and if you don't know about Duke, you definitely should know about me. I was recently named an All-American. I was 2024 ACC Pitcher of the Year. Whew, the list goes on. I was MVP.
So you're already out of breath.
I mean, it's just a lot. It's just a lot too much to talk about. But MVP of ACC tournament, man. I'm a pro softball player, Texas Smoke. We're 18-1 on the season. Man, I'm just a blessed girl, and there's just so many accolades attached to my name. So I'm very grateful.
So before we even get into a lot of the most recent accommodations and positive things that have been going on, let's kind of go into what started you into just your softball journey, right? Like, I know your dad played. So what did that kind of spark your interest, or was it just a found love on your own? How did that start for you?
No, my dad was definitely my idol. He played for the Mariners, their farm system. And so just like hearing all about his stories and how he wanted me to be in his shadow, I was like, Dad, I got you. Like, I'm just as in love with this game as you are. And so it just propelled me to follow in his footsteps. And of course, like, I wanted to be better than him. And thankfully I have been. But yeah, my dad, that's my guy. We sit and talk on the phone about the game for hours. He'll send me motivational videos. He's been to a couple of my pro games. He's been to all my Duke games. So that's my guy. That's my dad got me into this game I love.
I love that. So at what age did you start playing?
I started playing when I was 5 years old. The good old T-ball mound. We'd be on the back of the baseball field, just in a little grass plot. They'll draw the lines on the field, little benches out for the parents, and we would be out there for hours just hitting balls off the little tee when I was 5.
Now, based on just how your journey you were able to come up through softball and just a lot of the giving back you do now to the younger group, why is that so important to you to give back, and how does that, help you even in your current play now?
Well, I'm a minority in the sport, and I believe there's only 10% of us who are women of color who play softball, and less than that, they're female pitchers, Black female pitchers. So just, being one of those statistics, like, I want to motivate the next little girl to be like, hey, if Jayla Wright can do it, or if Odyssey Alexander can do it, or if Alicia Ocasio can do it, then I can do it too. Like, I want to grow this game by the numbers, and I believe girls that look like me deserve a shot. We don't have to play the outfield, or we don't have to just run the bases. We can play any position we put our mind to. And I got to see my grandmother before she passed away as well, so it just all worked out in my favor.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So throughout that journey, and I know we even talked offline as far as, how passionate you are in Alzheimer's cause.
Mhm.
How would you like to, bring more awareness to something like that, especially to the younger group? Because I know that's something that doesn't generally hit us, as young as it does, but it's still something that we can start doing preventative things
Yeah.
now. I love that. I love that. So I kind of want to talk about your journey just from like starting on just like the collegiate and then going into the pro level.
Okay.
So obviously you're from Durham, North Carolina. What
Mhm.
initially during the recruiting process, right? I'm not sure how many initial offers you had, but I know you ended up picking Michigan State and then coming back to Duke. So what made you initially pick Michigan State? What made you then realize, okay, let me come back closer to home, play just a few hours outside of my city and kind of show up for my hometown? What was that process like for you?
Well, okay, so when I chose Michigan State, I had a couple teammates, and the coach now, Ashley Chastain, she's a coach at, she just moved, I believe, to South Carolina. She was the coach who recruited me to Michigan State, and we just had built this great relationship. I would talk on the phone with her like two, 3 times a week. Me and my teammates were excited to go. And at that time, I was just like, I want to be away from my parents. Like, I'm over this. I feel like I'm grown now. Like, I don't need them. So with Michigan State in the perspective of, I was like, okay, like I can do this. Like it's only about 12 hours away. This is what I was thinking in my head. Only is
Hmm.
keyword, which is crazy that I'm even saying that out loud that I thought that. But I was like, okay, I can do this. When I got there, completely different story. I was homesick. I wanted to see my mom. And also around that time, my grandmother was just diagnosed with Alzheimer's. So
Hmm.
just knowing that I had to deal with that away from my family and I couldn't hold my poor sweet little grandmother in my arms, that definitely broke my heart. And of course softball wasn't going that well either, so I was like, I have to go back home. I need to go back to North Carolina. I need to go back to Charlotte. So then Durham, that's where Duke is located. I was
Hmm.
like, Duke was only 2 hours away from home. Coach Marissa Young recruited me my first time around before I decided to go to Michigan State, and I immediately called her up. I was like, Coach Young, like, I'm so sorry. I made a terrible decision. Like, please, I would love if you would give me a second chance. And sure enough, she was like, Jay, like, let's do it. So got to Durham, fell in love with it the moment I stepped on campus, and I was like, okay, this is right where I need to be. And of course, Coach Young is a Black woman as well, and so knowing that I can have her leadership and I can see someone physically that looks like me who played the game, who had all these accolades, I was like, I'm in the right hands. My family was able to come to every single game. They even showed up to a few practices. I would say do your research. Go on the Alzheimer's website. I believe it's alzheimers.org. You can donate, you can research. I know there's a lot of people in the community who would love your support and love, to donate so they can further some research along. Alzheimer's is not a curable disease. And so when you are impacted by it, sure enough, the end is going to come soon, which is, oh, I might start tearing up, which is bittersweet. And so with that in mind, like please, please, please do some research. If you know anybody who has Alzheimer's or is getting close to the diagnosis, please love on them hard. Seeing your loved one go through, slowly progress, not being able to talk, not even be able to feed themselves, not being able to, even walk on their own. That kills a small part of you mentally, knowing that you're doing all you can and you can't help your loved one. So please, please, please donate and please give your love to someone who's been impacted by it.
I love that. So I want to switch back a little bit to just your journey as far as Duke.
Mm-hmm.
When coming home, right? And still touching on the family aspect a bit, how much do you feel as if being homesick and being away from your grandmother and your family during that rough time in Michigan affected your game? And how did you feel as if it improved it when you came back? Because the numbers do speak for itself, but I also know you had more reps and you had more playing time as well. So sometimes the numbers might be bad, but you just might not have had the opportunity to get in the flow. So how did that play an impact on you?
I think both goes hand in hand. Being away from my family, I'm a big mommy's girl. Like I call my mom 3, 4 times a day, and I talk to my family 3, 4, 5 times a day sometimes. So, being away from them, like that's your village, that's your support. When you're not seeing them out in the stands, or you can't, give them a quick phone call to, hey, like give me some advice right here, right in this moment. Like that sucks, and especially as a player who they saw you from when you were 5 years old, and now they can't see you in college. Like that's just heartbreaking. And so when I got back to Duke and I could see my family in the stands and I could step out to the locker room and call my mom immediately or call my dad immediately, like that filled my cup. That made me want to go 150% harder for them because I knew they were there watching. And also with the opportunities, when you're in a positive environment, when you are surrounded by love and support, like that just helps you mentally, physically, emotionally. And I don't think I had that at Michigan State. Don't get me wrong, like Michigan State is a great place, but it just wasn't the great place for me. And
Hmm.
so I truly believe that I like to call myself like a little flower. And so that garden, that definitely didn't, rain on me, or it didn't like fertilize me, and it didn't help me grow into the beautiful flower I am. But Duke definitely did. I was nurtured, I was loved, I was talked to kindly, and I'm forever grateful.
That's powerful. So you started collegiate career, was it the year after COVID or the year of COVID?
The
Year
year
after, right?
after COVID, yes.
Okay. So how was it being on the team with players who had that extra year of eligibility compared
Mhm.
to, you not being able to have that extra year eligibility? And then, because I know that was something you applied for, even just for that extra year, because
Yeah.
you were dominating so well. So how was that being on the team with that, still, not being able to
hmm
finish what you started, especially in this past year?
Well, for one, I was like, damn, like I'm playing with 23 years old. Like I'm only 18. I just turned 18, and I'm playing with a girl who's is like a true adult, like paying bills, all this stuff, and I'm a baby. So that was just shocking in itself. But the girls I had, Peyton St. George, Sylvie Walters, Christina Foreman, just a few names that I could think of off the top of my head. They were so nurturing, like true friends of mine, and I still talk to them to this day. So they definitely took me under their wing and was like, Jay, like you're meant to be here, you're supposed to be here, like let me help you, and I know you can do everything you want to do on that field. With the COVID year happening, unfortunately, when I put in my request to get my year back because I didn't play that much at Michigan State, it just ultimately came down to the numbers. I was a pinch run over the statistic line of percentages to play, and that definitely was like a knife to the heart, knife to the gut. I was like, are you serious? A pinch run, like that's what cost me. But fortunately, I had a great year that I did my senior year. I was an All-American, ACC Pitcher of the Year. We went to the World Series. That was the main goal. So at the end of the day, I think that I wasn't meant to have that year. I think everything worked out. But playing with those COVID girls and seeing them get that extra year, a part of me was a little bit jealous. Like, dang, like I want my part back. I can only imagine the numbers I could have hit if I had an extra year going into this season.
Hey, look, I was excited just to see another year, but everything happens for a reason. And look at you now, you're
hmm
at the Texas Smoke, even currently,
hmm
18-1,
Yep.
right? Dominating, best record in the league. I
hmm
know this is your first year with them, but they are already champions last year. So how is it, for one, coming from a championship minded team at Duke, being so close to then entering into your first pro season and be able to be on a team that, for one, already has that championship mindset, but then is still dominating this year the way they are?
Oh, it just only helps me reach even bigger heights. I mean, I just left Duke. We just went to the World Series. I can check that off my goal list. Now I'm stepping into the pro level, and I'm with a team of champions who USA members, future Olympians, like they were all Americans at their respective colleges. It just only elevates me more. Iron sharpens iron. And so just playing with some of my role models that I grew up watching is unbelievable. Elizabeth Mason, Savannah Jaquist, Charlotte Eccles. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And so stepping into it, I was definitely nervous. I was like, oh my God, like, and going back to that COVID year, like I'm a baby. Like
Hmm.
I just am stepping into the scene, and these girls have so much experience under their belt. Like, what can I bring to this team? But I just thought that, hey, like I'm meant to be here. I'm Slayla. Like if I just keep that mindset that I'm that girl, like I can help this team. I can bring my personality and just be as great and one day be a future Olympian, then the world is mine.
Hey, look. So, question for you. I
Yes.
know currently, you're with the team for 2 years, but you
hmm
said future Olympian.
hmm
Olympics in another 4 years. Are you interested in playing longer if the opportunity arises?
Listen, I want to play this game until I'm at least 80 years old. I don't think I'll be able to get my arm up that far, but I definitely would like the opportunity. It's tough. I'm not gonna lie. It's definitely, of course, political. And yes, I was an All-American. Yes, I do have some positive accolades attached to my name, but these girls, man, they're crazy good. And so I'm just hopeful if I just keep doing well, if I keep putting my best foot forward, then the opportunity will come. But it definitely is a dream of mine.
So I want to ask a two-part question that slightly relates and then slightly doesn't, right? First one being, you mentioned earlier, and then you also mentioned being on this team, right? I know this team is owned by a Black woman,
Mm-hmm.
Jade Cargill, WWE superstar. I think
Mm-hmm.
is she with AEW now? I'm not, or is she still with WWE?
I think WWE, yeah.
Okay, WWE superstar. But then you also said this is a sport that in which 10% are minority, which includes all minorities, and then even fewer are Black women
Mm-hmm.
and Black women pitchers. So how influential is it for you to be on a team that is owned by a Black woman? And then in that same respect, this is the second part. It might relate, it might not. How is the mentoring impact for you, or how important is the mentoring in this aspect? Being on a team owned by a Black woman, playing with the players that you've been able to play with, who you've grown up idolizing and respecting. So how has that been for you, and what kind of impact does that have on you in your playing game?
So that was actually one of the reasons why I came to the smoke. About, I wouldn't say majority, but most of the team are Black girls, and so I've never truly had that experience before. Growing up on my travel balls team, I was the only player of color, and then going into Duke, I believe I only had maybe 5 or 3 or 4 other teammates. But going into this team, it's like now like 6 or 7. So it's like, man, like this is just cool to just see it progress, even though I'm in a whole different level of softball. And it's just an honor to say the least. Like I can talk about like, hey girl, like what hairstyle should I get? Or like, do you like my lashes? Do they look good? Like, of course, like my Caucasian teammates, like they're like, yeah, like you look good, but it just doesn't hit the same. In all honesty, when you ask another Black female, like, hey girl, like what do you think? Because we've all gone through the same Black experiences, to say the least. Like we know like what looks good with our skin tone, how we have to present ourselves. And that's another thing. Within softball, I had to face the problem of being the angry Black girl. I am a pitcher who wears her emotions on the sleeve. You're gonna know, good or bad, like how I'm feeling. And it's something I'm still working on to this day, but like that's just how I play. Like I love to play with passion. And so having these other Black girls on the team, like they know I'm not angry, like I'm just passionate, and I want to give it my all, physically and emotionally, to the game I love. And so further, for the second part of your question, like yes, it means everything. Like this is exactly where I want to be. I want to be on a team that looks like me, and hopefully one day like there can be a team that's just all Black girls. No hate against the other girls, of course, but like you would never see that. You've never seen that, and I think we should start.
That's amazing. So explain to me how important the mentorship is as far as passing that down to the next generation because of something like this, right? Like how invested are you currently, and then what do you want to do in the space as far as being able to raise up,
Mm-hmm.
more minority women being able to play in the sport, more Black women being able to play in the sport?
Mm-hmm. So I have a few girls that I mentor actually who are all girls of color. I like to let them know, like I like to share my own experiences. I like to tell them like, hey, like you don't have to fit into the stereotype. Like you don't have to just be in the outfield. You can be a pitcher, and you can like have your own unique thing. I stick my arm out, and so a couple of my other girls have their own little things that they do as well. But no, it just helps to see someone that looks like you in the game as well, and it only motivates you more. And I didn't have that growing up. So I didn't have it a lot growing up, to be more precise. And so I want to create or help mold the next generation, so the generation after them can see those girls and be like, hey, like there's more of us. I can do this. So yeah.
Okay. Okay. So question, where
Yeah.
do you see, um, the next 3 weeks of the WPF season happening for you in the Texas Smoke?
Well, if you didn't already know, we're 18-1. I don't get too hard on our competition, but I think they have some work to do to, beat us to take the championship. And not, don't get me wrong, like anyone can beat anyone on any given day, but I think the way we are going right now, we are gelling on both sides of the ball, pitching, defense, hitting. We all love each other as a team. We're actually taking a team vacation this weekend just to, rejuvenate us, to get us back ready, locked in to go. But I think it's going to take a lot to beat us. We are definitely a team to beat, and you can even be up on us and we'll still come back and blow you out of the water. But I would say the teams, they got some other work to do for sure. But I definitely see us holding that trophy above our head.
I'm excited to see it.
Mm-hmm.
So I know you said that you all have been gelling on both sides of the ball, and I know that obviously comes from a number of things like team chemistry, people
Mm-hmm.
playing their role and people playing their position. And I obviously know that you were a pitcher, but I know that you used to hit and used to be a slight outfielder in your earlier careers, right? So I know you were speaking earlier as far as, letting the Black women know that they don't have to always be, outfielders or,
Mhm.
maybe even in diamond that they can be a pitcher. How were you able to kind of come into that role, and when did that start being something that you started being able to see for yourself?
So my dad was an outfielder. He always wanted me to be an outfielder, but I gave it a shot. I didn't really like it, not gonna lie. So then I decided to be a catcher. And so I kind of fell in love with catching. The gear was kind of cool to put on, being behind the field. I had a little bit of control. But then some of my teammates or some of my close friends growing up, they became pitchers. And so it was more of like seeing them in the circle, like flinging their hair back and forth, like just having full control of the game. And I was like, okay, like this is something I want to do. Like I started growing out of my tomboy phase.
Hmm.
And so as soon as I stepped into that circle and I just like felt all eyes on me, I didn't have to wear the big heavy catcher's gear anymore. I
90
could be
degrees
like,
outside nowadays. It's too hot to be wearing
oh,
all that.
no, it wasn't cute to me, not anymore at that point. And I was definitely turning into a girly girl. You can see where the name Slayla is coming into now. But yeah, I was just like, I want to be center of attention. Like, I want to take the game in my hands. Like, I want to be able to dictate how this game goes. And so that all happened when I was about 12 years old. And that's actually kind of late to start pitching, but who cares what people say at this rate?
Look, Michael
Um,
Jordan started playing basketball in high school, okay? I don't
right.
care what nobody says.
Period. Like, do what you want to do. So that's what happened with my story. Started pitching when I was about 12, fell in love with it. Really felt like it was a bigger challenge having to learn all these different pitches, how your body has to work in a fluid motion, mentally, how that can impact you. So it's just a whole challenge in itself, and I embraced it and I loved it. And so it just got me here. Now I'm a pro pitcher.
Okay. So I want to talk on the other side of business, and I kind of no, the other side of sports of business. And I touched on it a little bit earlier as far as, talking about the COVID year, and something simultaneously that happened pretty much that same year was also NIL pretty much coming into play.
Mhm.
Well, shortly after, obviously. So I know NIL came into play right after you got into college. So how was the transition when COVID first started, and then just how was the growth of NIL after the years started to come by and people started being able to, see more of how NIL was?
For myself, it was a little bit tricky because after COVID, I was still trying to make a name for myself. So of course, NIL wasn't like my best friend. I didn't really have my name too out in the world to know like, could we really support this girl? Could this girl even bring us revenue? And so I would say for some of my other like teammates or even friends within other sports of Duke, they loved it, worked for their benefit. And so that was something that motivated me as well to be better for my team and to be better for myself to hopefully generate more money. But yeah, I think after COVID, like we just needed something to give us a push with our year being taken away from us, having to play in stands with no one in the crowd. Like I think NIL gave us the boost the athletes needed. And of course, you hear all the time the little essays people would write, like why aren't college athletes being paid more?
Hmm.
I believe I wrote an essay myself about that. So I think, yeah, it propelled us. Like I have a few deals now, thanks to you. Just worked with a voting campaign, getting some sunglasses in the mail soon, maybe even some candy. It's definitely helped my pockets, helped me fund some things, and even help my family as well. I believe NIL beyond the glitz and glam, there's some athletes out there who truly see this as a job and they need that money to support their family. And so NIL has worked in more ways than one.
So throughout your NIL journey, what would be one of the most impactful things or one of the biggest tips you could give to, say, somebody that's watching this, especially in
Mhm.
the softball space or in a sport that doesn't usually get a lot of attention? Like, what would you say to do to help them start setting themselves up better to get NIL deals?
Social media is big. You have to have a social media presence. And within that social media presence, I think you need to stay who you are. People don't want a phony person. People don't want like someone just trying to fit a role. I think that's definitely been my best friend or biggest help to just be myself. And I would definitely say to the younger girls or to people who want to build their name in within NIL, like just show who you are. Like there's going to be some people who love and hate you, and hopefully there's going to be more people who love you. But at the end of the day, just be you.
I love that. So I'm gonna delve a little bit more into that, right? We always
Mhm.
hear, social media is key, creating content is key.
Mhm.
And everybody creates content in different ways. Everybody has different styles. Everybody posts on different consistencies. For you, what has been, one of the biggest factors that has, for one, gotten you in the flow of creating your own content and being comfortable in the content you create? And then number two, posting consistently enough to, say that you actually care about the content aspect and the brand building aspect of your game?
So for me, I'm definitely goofy, funny, go lucky off the field, but on the mound, I'm more stoic. So my content, whenever I post like softball content, I try to show both sides. So I just actually posted a video on my TikTok of me pitching and like just like showing different like movement of my pitches and me showing strikeouts. You can just see me like fist pumping or like just like a stoic presence on my face. More so off the field before game, like within pregame or post game, like I'm the girl who's like, okay, let's do this dancing TikTok. Like, we got to make sure we hit every beat, or like, let's do this dance, or like, let's make sure like the head movement, the hair is flipping, all that stuff. So I think me just showing my personality on and off the field has definitely helped my content.
How have you been able to find the right balance to also shine on your social media, right? Because I know a lot of people, they look for the right balance. They don't want to be,
Mm-hmm.
too sporty. They don't want to be too non-sport. How are you able to find that right balance to where, let's just say, your playing career ends, you've still built an audience that is, followed you for both your sport and for who you are?
Yeah. I'm honestly trying to figure that out still. Most of my content is all about softball, and like you said, like softball isn't gonna last forever. So I still try and show like my life beyond softball here and there, but I'm definitely trying to do it a little bit more just to show the people, of course, my people who love me, like, all right, like I'm more than just a softball player, pretty much. But I still think like that balance piece is a little tough. So if you have any tips for me, that would help.
I mean, I feel like the biggest tip I could probably give is plan your content, right? Now, when I say plan your content, I don't just mean, oh, let me create ideas and make them, right? I mean, literally take one day to plan all of your content that you're going to create,
Mhm.
right? Okay, whether that is, and figure out the content styles you want to dabble in as well, right? I actually heard this from an athlete recently, and she was able to formulate it very well. Basically, whether that is day in life content, she called it mini mic content, where people have the mini microphones, whether
Yeah.
that is, dance videos, whether that is, I know some athletes have their own business, right? Whether you
Mhm.
create some kind of content segment in different content styles, plan all of those out, whether that's sport related or non-sport related, and then take another day to actually film all the content, right? Because now you're not overwhelming yourself with trying to plan and film the same day. And now you can
Mhm.
just take the time to think about good ideas, content wise, when and how you want to post it, what strategy you want to use. And then you can do another day just to say, okay, I'm filming all this content because the ideas are already made. So it's a little
Yeah.
easier rather than feeling overwhelmed doing both at the same time.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's big. I actually need to hear that because I feel like I'm the type of person who's just like, okay, like I see this idea, like, okay, let's just do it, but not
Hmm.
just like planning it out, like coming with a caption, like actually putting some thought behind it. Yeah, that's definitely something I needed to hear.
And there's no, set amount of content that needs to be planned or made. It's whatever you're comfortable with. I know some people who will make 30 videos in one day.
Yeah.
I know some people who will make two or three, right? Whatever you're comfortable with, there's no right or wrong as far as the, amount of content you feel like creating. I would just say if you're going to plan it, it's always good to do a little bit more, depending on the
Mhm.
type of content it is. Obviously, if you're trying to do a day in the life, it's a little more difficult to plan a day in the life. You're just going to have to say, okay, I'm going to do it on this day when I know I'm a little bit more busy, rather than
Yeah.
if you're doing a dance video with teammates and you're going to be with your teammates, the next day you can hit them up, say, hey, let's do these dances, blah, 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 at this time when when we have time, or hey,
Yeah.
I'm starting this new type of segment to where I can batch this content up. It's just, depending on the way you want to go.
Yeah. That's good. All the wisdom, Alex.
I do
What
my I do my best. I do my best.
also, okay, that leads me then. What would you say to like future me who's probably retired and wants to do something different? Like, how would I showcase my brand in a different way beyond the softball player? Of course, like I can post the things I like and enjoy, but like, what if I wanted to find a new niche? How could I step into that gracefully?
I would start now. The best time to start in anything is, before you actually want to do it, because just like how you didn't get to be as successful as you are now by just starting to do it, right? It took time. Although obviously you said you started the pitcher side a little later than usual, the best time to start is starting, right? So I would say
Mhm.
start now, start building that foundation, start meeting those right connections, right? So even if you don't know exactly what you might want to do, I would start exploring more options, right?
Mm-hmm.
Besides your sport, what do you enjoy to do, right? Is it mentoring? Is it, creating content? Is it, being in the business side of sports, right? And once you figure out those things, start letting people know as well. Start verbalizing those things with the people you're around, because whether they can help or not, they might know somebody else who can. And then it's
Mm-hmm.
still another way of speaking it into existence. So you're able to actually start seeing those results because you're speaking it to life, right?
Yeah.
Another thing is build those relationships as well.
Yeah.
It's not just about starting, it's also about getting inside the room, because now you're inside the room, you're able to then meet those people,
Mm-hmm.
build those relationships. So they know you might play now, but you say, hey, this is another way of speaking it out loud and telling people, yeah, I play sports right now, but I've actually been looking to get into, sports broadcasting, or I've been looking to, be more on the coaching side of things or mentoring side of things, whether at camps or, self-help for young women athletes. Or
Mm-hmm.
maybe I want to be, you know, I'm not sure if you've heard of Chase Griffin, but UCLA quarterback, he speaks a lot to Congress about NIL, right? So maybe you want to go on the political side of things, right? Being able to be in these rooms and start speaking those to other people might give you, that connection to then go into the next level.
Okay, bet then. I can do that. I love a challenge.
I love it. So before we close out, I want you to go over 3 of your dream NIL deals and how you could, like, knowing the information you know now,
Mm-hmm.
how you could go about reaching out to those brand deals.
Okay, let me think. Okay, well, this is just a little fun fact beyond Slayla, the girl on this field. I love to read. I'm a big reader. I'm actually reading this book called Tower of Dawn by Sarah J. Maas. It's in her Throne of Glass series, so I'm thinking maybe reach out to any local bookstore. Like, hey, like if I maybe promote like your monthly book of the month, or if I get to my book readers as well to come buy books from you, I'll get like a discount or maybe some free books. Could that work?
That would be a good idea, and then you just gave me an idea for off.
Oh,
So, yeah,
yes. Look at this.
so what would be 2 more brand deals,
More?
and then what would be like actionable steps for the next one? Give me like an actionable step. If you didn't have an agent, if you were, just starting off in NIL now, but you know the things you know now, what brand would you go after, and how would you go after that brand?
Okay. I know referrals is big in NIL right now. A couple of deals I've had just using like discount codes. I wear my hair in braids all the time. That's my routine, part of my routine. Look good, feel good. So I actually have a braider that I go to consistently back home and now here in Houston. And so I would say more on the referral side, like, hey, if I bring in 5 clients a month, like I'll get a hairstyle done for free, or like, hey, like the braiding here is pretty expensive. Like, hey, like if such and such happens with the referrals, then free pack of hair or free this. And more also on the social media side as well, like me, doing some TikToks or me like posting on Instagram of my hairstyles that will help those referrals. So I think
So basically reaching out to the businesses,
yeah.
pretty much crafting your own deals through referrals,
Mm-hmm.
based on things that you pretty much use on a regular basis or have on a regular basis, and then
Yeah.
basically doing social media content as well to bring more attraction to that person.
Yeah. 100%.
Okay, dope. And
One more.
one more. Yeah. I'll pick the brand this time. So, what's one of your favorite snacks? I can't think of it right now, but what's one of your favorite snacks that you
Hershey's.
did?
I love
Hershey's.
chocolate.
Okay, so what would you do if you wanted to work with Hershey's? How would you reach out to that brand?
I mean, social media is big. Of course, we love posting about social media, posting about Hershey's, tagging. Yeah, that's the biggest thing I can think of.
So reaching out to the brand on social media and just seeing if you could collaborate with them through content you've already made.
Yeah.
Okay, I like it. I like it. Now, for those who have not already followed you, can you just go ahead and let them know where they can find you at, just so, if they wanted to reach out to you, if they wanted to, whether get mentoring from you, ask you advice about the sport, where can they find you at?
100%. Instagram is down below at __ Jayla, Jala, with 2 more A's at the end. My Twitter handle is Jayla Wright 14, and my TikTok is Jaylasana, Jalasana, 3 I's.
Alrighty. Well, Jayla, it was a pleasure having you on today. And if you haven't already, make sure you go ahead, like, subscribe to this video. Please go ahead and follow Jayla By the time you might see this video, she might already be a champion. But look, go ahead and show her some love and support, and we'll see you next time.
Please. Thank
Let's
you.
go.